John was left with a permanent limp, while Andrew lost the love of his life while roaming cemeteries and abandoned places. While each one of them thought they could deal with the fun of their adventure, the situation turned drastic with every step. Stay if you are brave enough to handle the scary cemetery stories of bloodthirsty men with creepy smiles and footsteps that apparently led nowhere. My name is John, and I'm currently 25 years old. I used to love night shifts, but something tragic changed everything. I never started a night shift again after that. I still get nightmares about that tragic and scary incident that happened in the cemetery. It all started 2 years ago when I was 23 years old. I was a night owl and started my shift at the local cemetery. No one before me stayed at the job for more than 2 weeks. Everyone used to quit working, saying they didn't want to die. I laughed when the manager told me this because they were probably scared of the dark. I was someone who loved the dark. I was someone who loved exploring abandoned places and places that had supernatural history behind them. My first week went off quickly and I was happy. I was getting paid $60 per hour. That would change my life because my last job was just $25 per hour. All I had to do was sit in the control room, look at the cameras, and report to the police if anything happened. I didn't even have to go out and check up on things if something would happen. Nothing happened in the first week, and I used to spend my time watching Netflix and keeping an eye on the cameras. I always kept the room locked, so I wasn't scared of anything. In my second week on Monday, my manager came up to me during my shift. He always left before my shift started, and I was used to be alone in the graveyard. He asked me quite weird questions. His first question was, "Do you feel any negative energy around here?" I replied, "Not at all, I like it here." Then he asked me, "Do you hear anyone calling your name? Or do you see anyone?" I found this question very weird, but I still replied, "Nope, I watch Netflix, so I don't really hear anything." After that, he asked me, "Do you want to quit?" To which I instantly replied, "Not at all." When he left, he had a strange facial expression, but I didn't care about it. I was happy as long as I was getting paid. On Wednesday night at 1 a.m., the lights went out, and it was pitch black everywhere. I stood up from my seat and walked to the other building to check the power breaker. I grabbed my pistol and my flashlight and left the control room. It was very foggy and cold, but it didn't bother me. I went to the other building and was shocked to see the power box open, and the breaker was switched off. I saw a pair of boots making a track. After switching the breaker on, I started following the boot marks and going deeper and deeper into the cemetery, where there were old graves. By old graves, I mean graves that were dated in the 1800s. Strangely, the boot marks led to a grave whose tombstone said Mary Shelley. With her date of death on February 1st, 1851, the name sounded familiar, but I didn't think much of it. There was no trace of footsteps anywhere else. It was as if the person had gone into the grave. I have to admit, I was having a weird feeling of being watched. The very next day, around 11 p.m., I saw 3 men walking into the cemetery. I turned the mic on and said, "The cemetery is closed. I suggest you turn around and walk back." But they kept walking around. The gate to the cemetery was locked, so they snuck into the cemetery, which was a law violation. "Go back or else I'm calling the cops," I said into the mic. One of the 3 men started looking directly towards the hidden camera. He was staring into the camera, and I felt as if he could see me through the camera. How did he know the location of the camera? I called the cops and didn't bother informing the men. Suddenly, I heard a voice behind me. "You shouldn't have called them." Chills ran down my spine as I turned around to find the same man who was staring at me through the camera standing behind me. I didn't understand how he got inside within 2 minutes. No one can break a lock that quickly. "How did you get inside?" I asked him. "It doesn't matter, because you're a dead man," he said as he took out his pocket knife and started walking towards me. I unlocked my pistol and pointed it toward him. "One more step and I'll shoot you," I said in a shaky voice. He laughed at me and jumped at me. I punched him in the face and tried to snatch the knife from his hands, but then he pushed me hard. I felt a sharp pain in my right leg and then saw that he had given me a deep cut. I was bleeding, and then he cut my arm. I screamed in pain while he stabbed my other leg and was laughing like a maniac. Suddenly, we started hearing police sirens approaching us swiftly. He looked me in the eye and said, "I'll come back for you," and then hit me in the head, making me lose consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying in the hospital bed with my parents, whom I hadn't seen for 4 years, sitting beside me. After that moment, the manager walked in. He told me that it was an unusual incident that had happened. 3 thieves were there to dump a dead body that was found in a bag. The police arrested 3 criminals, but all 3 of them had a history of breaking out of the prison multiple times. I left that job. I still limp when I walk and never go for night shifts again. If you are enjoying the video, then don't hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button. My name is Andrew, and I'm 24 years old. I was an explorer who loved exploring old abandoned places. But something so tragic happened in one place that my life changed completely in just one night. It didn't change in any suitable way. I never even thought this could happen, but life doesn't go how you want it to. I was just 22 years old at the time, and my girlfriend Emma told me about an abandoned cemetery just a few steps away from a big old house that was also abandoned. It was located at a 4-hour drive away from my house in Minnesota. We both planned to go there over the weekend and spend 2 nights in that house. I told this to my friends, and they warned me to stay away from cemeteries as they're not some places that are worth exploring. I never gave importance to their advices, so I stuck with my plan. On Saturday morning, we left our house, and we were at the place within the next 5 hours. I have to admit, the place was very creepy. There was an abandoned house that was barely standing. There were no locks on the door. The house had once been furnished. We even saw dirty dishes in the kitchen, as if the family had left the house for some reason and never came back. Emma kept complaining about having a weird feeling of being watched, but I just dismissed it as being in a creepy place. In the evening, we went to the graveyard. There were old graves from the 1800s and 1900s. The location of the graveyard didn't make any sense. It was just a few steps away from the house. You could see the graveyard from there. We took some pictures of the graves, and when we got back, I was shocked to see all of our belongings scattered around. It seemed like someone else was here and going through our stuff. Nothing was missing, so it didn't make any sense. We both thought it might be an animal. I told my girlfriend to look around on the ground floor while I headed up to the first floor. We found nothing, so we assumed the animal had gone away. Did you fall somewhere? I asked her. Nope, I don't know how, Andrew, but ever since I got here, I feel like someone is watching us, she replied. Don't worry, babe. This is how old places feel like. Don't let it get to your head, I assured her, and then we got into our sleeping bags on the living room floor. It was around 1 a.m. when Emma woke me up. Andrew, there's someone outside, she whispered. I quickly got out of my sleeping bag and grabbed my pocket knife. Stay here, I'll check it out, I said before grabbing my torch and slowly making my way out of the house. I started looking around but didn't see anyone there. Before I made my way back, I noticed a dark silhouette of a man standing near the graveyard, staring directly at me. I flashed my torch at him, but he just turned around and faced his back towards me. The man was wearing a black leather jacket, black jeans, and black Chelsea boots. Turn around, I said out loud, but the man didn't even move an inch. I said, turn around, I yelled. The man started walking backward towards me. Hey, stop right there, I'm calling the cops, I yelled again, but he was still coming towards me. Are you scared to turn around and face me? I yelled again. The man stopped right in his tracks. I gripped my knife in my hand tighter and was ready to use it as soon as he ran towards me. He didn't even move and just started laughing like a psycho. This isn't funny, I yelled, but he just kept laughing. All of a sudden, I heard Emma screaming and I ran towards the house. As soon as I got inside, Emma wasn't in the living room. Emma! I yelled out and started looking in every room. She wasn't on the ground floor, so I approached the stairs. There were fresh blood drops on every stair. I knew something was very wrong, but went up the stairs 2 at a time. After looking in every room, I found Emma lying on the bed in one of the rooms crying. There was a pool of blood around her. What happened? I asked, but she kept on crying. I could see the bruises that she previously had were now open wounds that were bleeding, and she was stabbed in her stomach. I quickly picked her up and went straight to my car. I started the engines but noticed the car wobbling. I got out and saw that both front tires were flat. Someone cut the tires. I rushed back to the house to grab the air compressor we used to fill our air mattresses. When I got back, Emma was no longer in the car. Emma! I yelled out loud. I looked everywhere for her, but there was no one to be found. I called 911, and they led a search party, but it was as if Emma had just vanished. That night, I lost the love of my life, and it was all my fault. It's been 2 years, but I still feel Emma around me all the time. In my dreams, I see Emma lying on the bed in that abandoned house, crying for help. My name is Oliver, and I'm 26 years old. I had a job at the city cemetery. My job was simple. I just had to keep an eye on the place, stop vandals, and make sure no one decided to camp out among the graves. I took the job because I liked the peace and quiet, but lately, that peace has faded away. It began with a strange man. I first saw him on a Tuesday at 2 a.m. I was walking near the big oak tree when I noticed him standing at the edge of the graveyard. He was tall, dressed in dark clothes, and his face had a weird, creepy smile that didn't look natural. I called out to him, but he didn't answer. I have to admit, I was feeling a little scared. Hey, the cemetery's closed. You need to leave. He didn't answer. He just stood there smiling. His eyes locked on me like he could see straight through me. I reached for my flashlight, turned it on, and flashed it towards him, but he was gone, just like that. The spot where he had been standing was empty, except for a pair of footprints in the wet mud. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe I was tired. I'd been working long hours and not sleeping well, so maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. The next night, he was there again. Same time, same place. But this time he was closer. He was near the gravestones now. His smile was creepy, just like before. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to walk towards him. I couldn't believe how someone could just smile that wide. He didn't say anything, just like last time. He just kept staring at me with a frozen smile. I went closer to him, but with every step forward, my gut feeling was telling me to go back and call the cops. Suddenly, I tripped, and my flashlight fell to the ground. When I picked it up and flashed towards the man again, he was gone. I looked around, but there was no trace of him. No footprints, no signs that anyone had been there. By the third night, I was nervous before my shift even started. At 2 a.m., I stood by the oak tree waiting, and there he was. This time, he was halfway into the graveyard. I didn't call out or move, I just stared, holding my breath. He took a slow step forward, which was unusual because he had just stood there on the previous 2 nights. I thought of it as someone playing a prank on me and tried ignoring his presence. I spent the rest of that shift hiding in the small office by the gate. I told myself I was being ridiculous, and it was just a prank. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Night after night he came back, and each time he got closer. I started losing sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. That smile, those dark eyes. I began to hate my shifts, but I couldn't quit. Something about it felt like I had to keep it. Leaving the shift wasn't an option because I depend on them, and I felt like he was following me around. On the 7th night, I decided to bring my phone to record him. I needed proof for myself and for the police. At 2 a.m., I waited by my office with my phone in hand. When he appeared, he was only 20 feet away. My hands were shaking as I hit the record button. For the first time, he moved. He tilted his head slightly, like he was thinking about my question. Then, he stepped forward slowly. I stumbled back, dropping my phone. My flashlight was pointing directly at him. His skin was pale and stretched tight over his bones. His eyes were black, empty holes, and his smile was weird. It looked as if it was part of his face, and he couldn't stop smiling. It was too perfect to be true. I grabbed my phone and looked up again. He was gone. I didn't sleep at all that day. I kept replaying the video, but nothing was on it, just darkness. On the 8th night, he was 10 feet away. On the 9th, 5. I could see every detail on his face, line and crease. Tonight is the 10th night. I'm sitting in the office watching the clock. It's almost 2 a.m., and I've decided this is it, my last shift. Whatever happens tonight, I'm done. I can't keep doing this. It was destroying my mental health. When the clock strikes 2 a.m., I force myself to go outside. I turn the corner, and he's right in front of me, just inches away. His grin was wider than ever. His eyes lock onto mine, and I feel a cold, creeping chill down my spine. I want to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. "What do you want?" I whispered, barely able to speak. His smile stretched even wider. His jaw opened, and I could see his sharp teeth. I could feel his breath on my face. When he spoke, he had the deepest voice I had ever heard in my life. "You." And then everything turned dark. When I woke up, I was lying on the hospital bed. I was glad the night was finally over, and he was going to leave me now. However, later that night, at exactly 2 a.m., I woke up in the hospital bed, and I could feel him in the room again. These horrifying, scary cemetery stories show that no one is safe in the creepiest and deadliest hours of the night. Beware of paranormal activities, and don't go exploring cemeteries just for fun. But if you do, run at the slightest sound or movement, and don't look back. And if you dare, what will you get to see? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you find these stories scary and interesting, then don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more engaging videos. See you soon.